Hello everyone, my name is Kador, and welcome to another episode of Subgenres of Noise. This video is going to complete a trilogy of wall noise specific videos that I'm doing. I started with pure literal harsh noise wall, and then moved into walled harsh noise, and now I'm going to be talking about ambient noise wall. So, ambient noise wall is essentially an inversion of harsh noise wall, in that it is also focused on minimalistic, crackling, textural environments, but the sound itself is quite simply not harsh. Instead, ambient noise wall textures can be quiet, soft, relaxing, peaceful, and often natural sounding, comparable to the sounds of rain and fire. It can be one consistent, unchanging bed of noise, or it can progress and shift over time, or be blended with things like drone and field recordings. It is also an excellent genre to listen to while falling asleep for some soothing background noise. So with that out of the way, let's get into my recommendations for ambient noise wall. Little Fiction's River Spirit. This 14-minute track makes for the perfect bite-sized introduction to the ambient noise wall genre. The textures here are so impressively unique, bringing to mind a combination of water flowing and electronic sparking. After about 10 minutes, the low-frequency sound cuts out, leaving only the sparking crackles to finish it out. This release exemplifies the potential of wall noise as an avenue to create original, personal sounds, rather than just to be as harsh and extreme as possible. Shum, Levego. This album goes beyond pure ambient noise wall by combining those soft, static textures with evocative ambient drones. Most of the album is light and pretty sounding, but there are some heavier, dense moments as well. This would probably be a good entry point to the genre for fans of ambient drone music. NNAAI Mora Muro Mare. This album is a single, almost hour-long track that is probably my favorite example of what I'd call progressive noise wall. I'm not making a separate video for that, though. By this I mean that it starts out with almost imperceptibly quiet sounds resembling rain before gradually building up into a massive, dense, pulverizing noise wall. It continues to ebb and flow in a way that feels very unique, almost like this is a recording of some natural phenomenon rather than a man-made creation. As much as I love absolutely unchanging noise wall, it's so refreshing to hear an album that connects the dots between ambient noise wall and harsh noise wall in a seamless, flowing way. Various artists. Total Tickling of Throats. This album is a sort of inversion of Total Slitting of Throats, which I mentioned in my pure literal noise wall video. With each album consisting of several artists coming together to create a dense wall of noise, but that album is harsh noise wall and this album is ambient noise wall. The result is an intricate, layered sound, with each artist's individual contributions clearly shining through. This wall also progresses slowly and subtly over time, always in motion, keeping things engaging over the hour-plus runtime. Truly as much of an essential classic for ambient noise wall as Total Slitting of Throats is for harsh noise wall. Missing Girls 1. As far as I know, this is the earliest example of pure 100% ambient noise wall, released back in 2009. It consists of an hour and a half of nothing but sparse, minimalistic, irregular pulses, sounding something like a dirty, blank vinyl. It makes sense for this to be the starting point of the genre, as it is essentially the most basic, straightforward template for what ambient noise wall can be. Admittedly, I'm not a huge fan of the actual sound on here, as it's all in mono, and it's so minimal it's hard to latch on to anything, but I felt the need to include it here due to its pioneering influence. This project also has a fairly interesting concept, with each tape being themed around a particular girl who went missing at some point in time. There's an excellent article analyzing the Missing Girls project written by David C. Porter that I'd consider essential reading if you're going to listen to this. It really gives the whole thing an extra layer of depth and meaning, so I'll link that in the description below if you're curious. Dosis Letalis and Ropes, The Infernal Depths. A collaborative album containing two 15-minute walls composed of heavy bass rumbles, soft fluttery static, and subtle dark ambient drones. It sounds equal parts claustrophobic and atmospheric. Impermanence. Open your heart means ready to be hurt. Sadness struck as if it was lightning. This roughly half-hour-long album contains two tracks, the first being a very quiet and sparse field recording of rain. It has a relaxing and lonely vibe and really highlights the overlap between ambient noise wall and natural sonic phenomena like rain. The The second track, by contrast, is a more typical ambient noise wall with a very crisp, crunchy quality and excellent use of stereo panning, giving it a tingly ASMR type effect. Vida Median, Silent Dream. This half-hour wall seems to be a mixture of electronic and acoustic sounds, as I hear what sounds like rain, faint static crackles, and irregular clunking sounds that remind me of hollow wood. A very distinct and intriguing soundscape. Charlotte Braun, Happy Being Sad. A relatively short project by James Killick and Chris Garrett, described as depressive harsh noise wall themed around a Peanuts character. While the first track does end up gradually progressing into a full-on harsh noise wall, it starts out with minimalistic bass pulses that aren't harsh at all, and the second track, sparse crackling that becomes more muffled and subtle as it goes on, firmly places it in ambient noise wall territory. This is a great example of progressive noise wall that masters both sides of the harshness spectrum. Yushina Wareta Tamashi, Shinen. An hour of soothing bass meditation. The only sound here that doesn't exist in the ultra-low end is a faint mid-range noise that reminds me of a creaking ship at sea. This is a wall that you feel more than you hear. The Cherry Point, Blood Red. Surprisingly, the Cherry Point created one of the very first examples of ambient noise wall way back in 2004 with Blood Red. The catch is that the first 15 minutes of this 41-minute track are ear-splitting harsh noise wall in the vein of Night of the Bloody Tapes. Then it abruptly cuts to quiet muffled noise with sparse, delicate crackles over top, and stays that way for the remainder of its runtime. While I admittedly prefer the harsh bit to the rest of it, I still recommend this album just for how stunning it is to hear a whole new subgenre birthed out of harsh noise wall from nowhere. The David Scott Cadieux Center for Field and Room Recording, Declivities. This is a collection of field recordings that approximate ambient noise wall in their sound. It's fun to imagine what could possibly be making these strange textural noises, as the exact sources are unclear. At just over a half-hour total, Declivities is a more varied and approachable album than most of my other recommendations here, and the cryptic and unnerving vibe is palpable. Atomiste, Drown Within as the Mind Collapses. This is more of a drone album than an ambient noise wall one, but the second half is a consistent, muffled, fluttering noise that I'd say qualifies it for this list. If ominous dark drone with plenty of atmospheric noise worked in sounds like something you'd be into, then try this one out. Dead Housewife, Jane Doe. This wall clocks in at just over a half hour and is composed of soft, layered, natural textures that progress ever so subtly. It evokes the feeling of being alone in a log cabin during a rainstorm. Sergei Pakhomov, Whaler. Sergei Pakhomov is a Russian noise wall artist who's created an incredibly vast discography over countless different projects, and is certainly one of the most important names when it comes to ambient noise wall, so much so that I've included 3 of his albums on this list. Whaler is an hour and a half of more or less the same texture, although there is some gradual, subtle progression throughout. The sound features reverbed, clunking noises that recall being in a large ship on the ocean during a storm. Very natural sounding and evocative. Train Cemetery, Sloth. Another project by the aforementioned Sergei Pakhomov. These walls sound almost acoustic, like metal clanging together on some rickety steam-powered machinery, equal parts texturally stimulating and atmospheric. Shishonote, 1. And for the final Pakhomov project recommendation, we get 2 walls that sound like they're constructed from the sounds of tapping against wooden or ceramic objects, stretched out into continuous randomized tapestries. Very pleasant organic sounds. And he also released a sequel to this album called 2, several years after this one that's just as good, so if you like this one, I'd recommend that as well. And yeah, those are all my ambient noise wall recommendations. As I said, this is going to be my last wall noise related video. After this, I think I'm going to be talking about composed or progressive noise. I might have to come up with a better term for that, but anyways, stick around, I'll keep making more of these, and thanks for watching.